In this video, we will explain how to process a virtual terminal transaction. We will also explain what the different options mean. Let's begin by logging into the online portal. Go to the Virtual Terminal tab. Scroll to the transaction details. In this section, you'll find 10 fields. The first field, Transaction Process, is a drop-down. For now we will leave it on its default, Process Transaction Now. The next field, Merchant Account, lets you switch between your merchant IDs, if you have multiple. The third field, Transaction Action, is where we can switch between sale, pre-authorization and verify. For this exercise, we will leave it on its default, Sale. Next is the Merchant's Country field. This should be automatically set to your country. If not, select your country of operation from the drop-down. The fifth field, Currency, is where you select the currency the transaction should use. The default currency associated with your merchant ID will be pre-selected. The next field, Amount, is where you should input the transaction amount. Type the number without the currency symbol. Next is the Capture or Settle field. This field is where you can set up scheduling for when the transaction should be attempted. You have the option to either process the transaction immediately or schedule it for up to 30 days in the future. Alternatively, you can select to trigger it manually later. The last required field is Payment Type. It has 4 options. One-off means the transaction will go through once. One-off card on file means the transaction will also only go through once, but that you have the customer's card on file. Initial recurring refers to the initial transaction in a recurring payment. Upon completion of this transaction type, you will be given the option to set up a recurring transaction agreement. We have an entire video dedicated to recurring transactions where we go into more detail. The final option, Initial Installment, is the same, only this is used to make it easier for you to differentiate in your records. Second last field is the Unique Reference field. This is optional. You can type a unique reference for your own convenience. Often this is an invoice reference number or something similar. Lastly, the Order Description field. This is also optional and can be used to put in details of the order, such as items in the order, discounts, or any other details you want to be attached to the transaction. Scroll down to Card Payment Details. The first field is mandatory. It is the customer's 16-digit card number found on the front of their card. The second field is also mandatory. It is the expiry date, also found on the front of most cards. This field is 2 drop-downs. The first is to select the month, the second to select the year. The third field is needed to enter the customer's CVV code, the 3-digit number found on the back of the card. Scroll down to Customer Details. This is where you enter the customer information. Most of it is optional unless you are checking AVS. See our AVS CVV tutorial for more information on this. The customer's address and postcode fields are checked against the acquiring bank's information for the AVS check. The remaining 5 sections are typically optional. Delivery details are where the customer's delivery address and information is entered. Purchase details is where you can enter tax information, discounts, and purchased item descriptions. This section is required by American Express cards. Notification details is where you can override your default notification email address specific to this transaction. Authorization is where you input the code used for an offline transaction. This code would be given to you by the acquiring bank if you were attempting such a transaction. Custom details is used to add any custom fields you want to add, to track more details on this transaction. Finally, click Process Transaction Now at the bottom of the page to start your transaction, or start the countdown if you have it scheduled to capture later. The gateway will process your transaction request and notify you of the outcome. For additional support during the setup, please reach out via email at online.support@paymentplusgateway.com. Thank you for watching.